Rabbi Isai, we carry on Yerushalmi Peah, which is brought to you by myself, really. Gerard Savary Mortgages Limited. I wanted to just a slight correction on Daf Dovid. We spoke about Enotam Tofel Babes Lebay, but just to say, I got the odd second got confused. Basically, you cannot use Maser Sheni money for Chagiga, right? You meant to use Chulin money for Chagiga. And from what I said, just for slightly, it was the other way around at one point, but I'm just correcting that. Make sure you got that clear. We're up to Daf Vav Amud Beis, which is the Old Star pages Gimel Amud Beis. Min Damam. So, Nachasim, whose belongings, who pays for it, right? Does the son have to spend his own money, or maybe use the parents' money? What happens now? You know, in Bavli it says clearly it's Michel Harav, right? Bavli clearly holds it's from the father, but Yerushalmi is not so clear. He said Michel Zakin, it belongs to the father's estate, so the son has to bother and everything, give him to drink. But as far as spending money, he has to. The father pays for it. But someone to say no, it's from the son's estate. He has to spend money to give to drink, to give food. Now they discuss it here. Some say, look, it really depends. So if the father has money, yes, use the father's money. If he hasn't, then the son has to go knocking on doors to get the money. And even if that means the son loses his livelihood because he's spending the time knocking on doors, then so be it. So, and some want to say, well, it depends if the father or mother has or hasn't got. So there are various different diyunim as to what the Yerushalmi Shitta is, whether it agrees with the Bavli or not. Okay, so now if the father tells his son, throw the wallet in the sea, the son has to listen. So you see, the son has to spend money in order to honor his parents. You can't prove from there that you have to spend money. Why? Because that is maybe the father's got another wallet with another lot of money, and so on, and he'll pay back to the son the loss by throwing this wallet into the sea. Basically, the father wants him to cheer him up by throwing a wallet in the sea, but it's not necessarily a raya that the son has to actually spend money. But then the word now comes back to the Bryce, which spoke about fearing one's parents. Okay, it says so both men and women are obligated in the midst of fearing one's parents. Now, why does it say ish? A man has the ability always to do it. There's no one objecting. Whereas ha'ish, when it comes to the wife, if she's married, she doesn't always have the opportunity. Because she's doing all things with her family, with her husband, and he can object that she shouldn't spend the time honoring her parents, looking after the parents. That's why the Torah mentions an expression of ish. But if the woman's divorced and is widowed or noiskash or divorced, then she once again has the ability to honor her parents and to look after them. Now, we spoke about whether kibbud avayim has to be from the father's estate. We said maybe the father's got a wallet and therefore he's telling the son to throw in the sea and the son's not losing anything. The Gemara brings another opinion now that looks at Rabbi Yochanan slightly differently. There's the following, argues on what we answered already, Duama, because he says, Tana Rabbi Yehuda Durati, says that din Yochanan, that the son has to throw the wallet in the sea, is even if the father has no money to pay him back. And it's like Rishon Beichai, the Tana Rishon Beichai, he says, God will kibbud avayim, she'ediva kadosh baruch hu yosem v'kibbudai. Now look at this, Rabbi Isai. This opinion holds kibbud avayim is more important than kibbud of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ne'emar, it says in the Torah, kavod avicha v'asimecha, you honoring your parents. But ne'emar, when it says kavod Hashem ma'ancha, you honor Hashem for all that you have, all your possessions. Mimat mechamdo, how do you honor Hashem from your possessions? Mimat shechanancha, what Hashem has given you. Right, what He's blessed you with. And that's fine. And if He gave you a field, then mafresh, leket, sheicha, peh, you can separate all the gleanings you have to separate. Mafresh truma, masa rishon, masa sheni, masa ani, machana, all the various things you can do. You've got a field, Hashem's given you money, that's fine. He's given you money as well. I said sukkah v'lulav, shofar tefillin. You can do all these mitzvahs. Sukkah, lulav, shofar tefillin. Says this, machalas aniyim, you give food to the poor, v'sarevim, those who are hungry, mashkas asmei, you give drinks to those who are thirsty. If you have money, you can do all these things. But if you haven't got, You're not obligated with them.
Even tefillin? Even tefillin.
Well, tefillin here, if you haven't got, you haven't got. Maybe you can try and borrow, use someone else's, but if you can't make it, if you haven't got it, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. When it comes to honouring one's parents, we'll come to actually what you asked. This brisa makes a chiluk between kibbud avayim and other mitzvahs. Kibbud avayim, you have to spend all your money, even if you end up knocking on doors. Other mitzvahs, it seems you're not have to spend all your money and start knocking on doors. In halacha is paskad, you're not have to spend more than a fifth of your chomesh of your nechasim to do a mitzvah saseh. Even if it's a mitzvah various like sukkah, lulav, etc. Okay, let's carry on. When it comes to honoring one's parents, now the Torah says covered is vichos imacha. It doesn't say mahai necha. Ben sheyesh l'chaim, ben she'en l'chaim. You got money or not? Covered is vichos imacha. You still have to do it. Even if you're knocking on the doors and asking for tzedakah for them. Right? In the words of Shemai, you see, a son has to honor his parents from his estate. And the dinner of Yosef was said, according to his shitta, that a father is mitzvah on the son. When the father is mitzvah on the son, let's say to throw his, the father announces for his son to throw the water in the sea, the son has to listen, even if afterwards the father will not pay him back. Okay, right. Rav Acha, now the Gemara brings other drashas about the reward of mitzvahs. Rav Acha Shem Rav Kahana, because it says Chaim pentifales no magalasah laiteda. This is a pasuk in Mishlei. It means it's talking about a parable of someone who's seduced. That's what it's talking about there. And don't go to this woman who's strange to you, because the way of the zayna that goes to Sha'al, you won't be careful, the person will fall away. So what does this pasuk tell me? Hashem moves around the reward. He didn't reveal all the reward. So that you'll do it with trust and with faith and not for the reward. If Hashem told you the reward, people would run after those where have a bigger reward. Rav Acha b'Shem Rabbi Yitzchok, because it says, guard yourself. Again, the pasuk tells the person, guard from everything, whether it's severe avera or light avera. You have no idea where life will come in the world to come. Maybe that mitzvah which is light in your eyes, that will bring real life in the world to come. Okay. Rabbi Baba Kahana, Hishva custom mitzvah kalash and mitzvahs which are lenient, you would think, are equated to the mitzvah chamora shemachora, so that which is severe. Mitzvah kalash v'kalas u'shilach haken, which is not such a big bother. You don't lose any money; it's hardly lost. Mitzvah chamora shemachora is mitzvah which is severe, is that kibbud avayim, which is a lot of bother, which can cost money, as we've said. Right? We saw from the story of Dovid ben Nesina. Right? There's no chiyuv to the kibbud avayim. The mother of Tarfon, he worked hard in the covet of his mother. Right? Even if you hold that the father has to pay for it, the son has to bother for the respect of his parents. Even if he ends up having a loss, we said that he can't go to work. He has to be terach with his body for honouring his parents, even if that he ends up having a monetary loss. So what have we got? Mitzvah chamor shebachamor is kibbud avayim, which is a lot of work. Both of them we have a reference. Varach yamim, you have length of days. Okay, so Torah is telling you. Son has a little mitzvah, has a big reward, like a big mitzvah. Therefore, we have to be careful with all of them. Now, this is an interesting Yerushalmi. It's that which is paying back a debt. Because you'd think the son has to pay back his parents for all the good they do to him. Because if it says, be good for you, you'll have lengthy days. Something like separating trauma and maser, where there's a financial loss. But sikun nafasha is a mitzvah which has danger, like bris milah, or some mitzvahs that you do at the time of decrees, bad decrees, like hoshikain. How much more so the reward will be great? So we say priyas chov, something where you're paying back a debt. Yerushalmi seems to refer to as kibbud avayim, as like paying back a debt. Rav Levi said, no, when you're paying back a debt, that's the reason why it's more choshev than other mitzvahs. Don't learn from other things. Because Gadol Udavish B'Riyas Chov, great, is something where you're paying back a debt, like honoring your parents, which is a deed, which is good to heaven and good to mankind. And that is greater than Vidavish Eina B'Riyas Chov, a Maisa which is not paying back a debt, which is only good for Shamayim. So don't learn the reward of other mitzvahs with the Kal V'Chomer from the reward which we have with Kibbud Av V'Eim. Now the Minchas Chinuch actually has a question as to whether Kibbud Av V'Eim is it a mitzvah between man and Hashem, or is it a mitzvah between man and his friend? Right? The Gemara here is mashma that it's like paying back a debt. Sounds like it's between you and your friend. Also, there's you and your friend. Okay, it's not just Hashem, because prayers chov is like being adam l'chavero, right? You have to pay back your friend what you borrowed of him. Okay. Tani, just like the reward of Kibbud Av V'Eim and Shluch HaKan is equal. On both of it has this expression of lengthy days. So also the punishment is equal if one doesn't keep these mitzvahs. Malzah, what's the source for this? Ayin til ag la'av v'tovos likahas aim. This talks about the ravens who are gashing away and eating. The prophet says, Ayin til ag la'av, the eye which mocked, she'iligal kibbud av v'eim, which mocked this mitzvah, and in the end bizas, and it sort of mocked on that which is written about shluch hakan, where it says Latikach ha'em al abanim, don't take the mother with the children. The punishment is yikruha over nachal, it'll be like gouged out by the raven. Yava'ei arev shul achzoi, let the cruel raven come, who's cruel on his children, v'yikrena by the enemy mena, and it will gouge out the eye, so it won't get any benefit from it, not to eat it, not to get benefit. V'yachluha b'nei nesha, yava'ei nesha shehurachman, the eagle that will come, which is merciful, v'yachlena v'yehanem, and it will come and eat it and get the benefit. So the punishment for someone who's mezvazeh the mitzvahs is equal, or these various mitzvahs we talk about. So sometimes a small avera might be very severe, like a big avera, and therefore you have to be careful from all of them. Okay? This word likas heim, as if it's written lokachas aim. You're mevazeh the issur of lotikach ha'eim al abanim. You see, that's how they're learning. Okay. Rabbi Yonasan, Rabbi Yana having Yisivim, they were sitting together. Asachad Banash, a person came along. Rabbi Yonasan, he kissed the feet of Rabbi Yonasan. Rabbi Yana says, what good did he do? He's paying you back today. He's coming to kiss your feet. He says, he complained before me on his son that he should feed him. I said to him, go and scream in the shul of Azisei and embarrass him in front of everyone. So there used to be a custom in some shuls, if you had an argument with someone, it wasn't being seen to, you'd go to the shul and you'd stop the davening just before laning. And the shul davening would stop, and they would not allow the laning until that matter has been sorted. Right, this was an old minhag in some shuls, it's brought down. There was various shuls, the Rashba brings it down. Ikuf tefillah. You had a complaint and you had permission to stop the davening so that people heard the complaints and that they dealt with it. That's what they had. So that's what he's doing here, huh? Well, yeah, if it's not being sorted, if it's a based-in matter, they're not seeing to it, then you're allowed, you have the permission to stop the davening until it's seen to. Okay, let's see, that's what we've got here. So, later, Yana said, why didn't you force the son to feed the father? Amalei says, can we force the son to feed the father? Amalei says, you still have this question, that if the father hasn't got where to go from and the son has got nachazim, of course we force the son to feed the father. Rabbi Yonasan changed his mind, but cover Shmuel min Shemei, and he fixed halach in the name of Rabbi Yanai. Also, Yaakov Baracha, he came, he gave it to Shmuel bar Nachman, he passed him to Rabbi Yonasan, Shekoven is haben lazun es ha'av. You force the son to feed the father. Okay, so there we are. I wish all the halachas were clear to me like this did. That if the father hasn't got and the son has got a chasim, shekoven is haben is himself. We force the son to feed the father. Okay. The Yosef, it says we have a source from the mitzvahs that a person has the benefits in this world, and the Keren is there for the next world. The Yosef, it says, Ready tzedakah b'chesed, b'chesed. Yimsa Chaim tzedakah b'chavod. When he runs after it, he runs after doing tzedakah and chesed with people, he'll merit the covered by the wazeh b'chaim la'olam haba. I bring a story here, Rabbi Yitzchok. He would take hadassim, he would dance with them in front of the brides. He would hide from him. He would say, look at that granddad, that zaken there, how he's embarrassing us with his deeds. When Shmuel Bar Yitzchok died, 3 hours of heavenly sounds of thunder and lightning. No focus, broskala. A heavenly voice went out. Amram said, "Damach Shmuel Bar Yitzchok gamel chastaya." When Shmuel Bar Yitzchok has died, the one who did chesed. Nafku lebigma chesed. All the community went out to go to the levaya to escort him for the burial. Fire came from heaven. And it appeared like a hadas branch, and it made a gap outside the tzibura between the coffin and the community for his honor. And then people said, Chayui, today in Sabbath, you see this elder, look what his hadas did to him. He used to dance with it. The schus of that chesed, they used to dance with the hadas before the colors helped him, that it went for his covered from Shemayim as the fire appeared like a hadas to separate him between him. Okay? In Bavli is brought, Shmuel Bar Yitzchok danced with 3 hadassim. He would throw one, receive one, he would juggle with them. Okay? My mother, Yerushalmi, she used to juggle in weddings many years ago. Maybe she followed this opinion. What else have we got here? Shmuel Bar Yitzchok, he held, so Reb Zira held actually that you're being mazazel and covered Tamid Chachamim by doing all this. Well, Tamid Chacham is allowed to be meichel, but you can't be disgraced in front of people. But however, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yitzchok had a different opinion. He says it's clear you're doing it for a mitzvah, and that's why it was permitted. Okay, the Bavli actually continues and says you don't have people in the generation where you have this fire, maybe 1 in the generation or 2 in the generation where you have this fire separate the coffin. Like, it's a very rare occurrence. Bringing peace between a man and his friend. Because if it says Bakesh Shalom, seek peace, run after it. Bakashel bimkomcha, seek the peace in your place, amongst your town. Radafehu, and chase it even mokamacha elsewhere. We have an expression of running after with doing chesed, and also we have radifa with making peace. Bakesh Shalom Radafehu. We have exer shava. My radifa shnei la'olam, just like the one with the chesed, covered, you married to get covered in this world, but it was there in life. Also, when it comes to making peace, you married covered by the Wazeh. You bring peace between people. It's a mitzvah you get from the fruit in this world. Harav once said, "I feel the whole world not equal except to one, even to one word of the Torah." So Talmud Torah Talmud Torah, even the smallest amount, is worth more than all the wealth in this world and all the pleasures in this world. Okay? The other one said, I feel the comments for Torah. All the mitzvahs are not complete, are not comparing. Even the mitzvahs don't compare. Right? Even the smallest thing of Talmud Torah is more than doing all the mitzvahs. Because Talmud Torah is greater than everything and pushes everything away. And it's partial that you have the fruits of the mitzvah in this world, and the Keren is for the next world, more than the mitzvahs which we mentioned before in the Mishnah. Talmud Torah comes before all other mitzvahs. Okay. So they discuss the question about, is doing mitzvahs more chashuv, more than Talmud Torah, and pushing it? You know, what does it mean, gadol? Talmud Torah, gadol. Talmud Torah keneged kulam. So they discuss, is mitzvahs greater or Talmud greater? So Talmud Torah is more chashuv than doing mitzvahs and pushes them away. So some say, no, Ma'aseh is gadol, right? So the actual doing the mitzvahs is greater than learning about them. So there's the question here, in what way is Talmud Torah greater than Could be Talmud has got a what does it mean Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam in that respect when you have that point. Okay. How we understand the Mishnah when it comes to that discussion as to whether mitzvahs are greater or learning about the mitzvahs. Okay. Let's carry on. Rav Tanchuma, Rav Yosef ben Zimra, they argued. Chadama, one said Kada, like Rav Rechia said, Chadama Kada, one said like Rav Chia de Tchumin. Rav Abba, Bavoid, Rav Abba, Mori, B'Shem Rav Acha, Kosav Echadem, one pasuk says, the Chachma is greater, B'chol Chafotzim Leishuva, nothing compares to it. Because of Echadem, one pasuk says, it's very Yikara Himipninim, B'chol Chafetzecha Leishuva. All what you have just doesn't compare to it. Now again, so one of the psukim says Chol Chafotzim, the other one says Chafotzecha. Right? So the psukim are talking about different things. Chafotzim is Eilu Avodim Tovos Margolis. This is the wealth of this world. Chafotzecha is Eilu Mitzvahs and Masim Tovim. It says Hashem does Chesed and Mishpat Tzaka Ba'aretz. Hibe'eda Chavasi No Hashem. Even Mitzvahs Masim Tovim are called Chayfetz. So the first passage is telling us even all the wealth of this world does not compare to Talmud Torah, and the second passage tells you even all the mitzvahs of the Torah are not compared to the mitzvah of learning Torah. Okay, that's what it's saying here. If you say Talmud Torah is greater than the whole wealth in this world, it's learned from the first pasuk, right? Kol Chafotzim Leishuva. According to the second opinion, Talmud Torah is greater than all the mitzvahs, and that's learned from the second pasuk. Even all the mitzvahs don't compare to the idea of learning Torah. Tabab, who was a king in Persia, Shalach Rabbeinu HaKadosh, he sent a message to Rabbeinu Nasi. Chad Magala Tova Antimtoin, and he said him, he sent him, one second, he sent him a jewel which had no value. It was like Atimtom is a Greek word. It didn't have a value. It was like very, very expensive, very valuable.
So it was valuable, too valuable.
It was too valuable. It didn't have a value. It was beyond value. Send me something which is equal to this. Shalach lechad mezuzah. He sent him mezuzah. He says, "Ma, what's this? I gave you something which has got no value. You gave me something which is worth one coin." He says, your jewel and mine, they can't compare in value to the value of the Torah. Not only that, you said me something that I need to guard it. I have sent you something which you can go and sleep and it will guard you. The series says, etc. But the pasuk says, you have it, it will guard you. To this Artaban, he was a Persian king. He felt that Aisha is, Shleimus what we have. Nasi was very rich. So Artaban, they'll also think like me, all his wealth and riches in this world is all important. But Rebbe is telling him, no, the wealth and success doesn't depend on your wealth in this world, but it's your chachma, your midas, taivos, etc. Okay? Now, even though the Pashto, it sounds like Rebbe is giving him a mezuzah to guard him, guarding the house, right? That's how some Rishonim learn. However, some say the idea of the kavan of Shmira was actually limud HaTorah, and that mitzvah is written in the mezuzah, not just the guarding of the mezuzah in the house. Because the pasuk is talking about the shmira of the Torah itself on the one who learns it, not the guarding the mezuzah of the house, which is up on his door. Okay. He dashed all the mitzvahs from the parents in this world, and the Karen is for the Adam Abba. It's not empty. Zeh Talmud Torah, the Rambam's Talmud Torah. Kihu chayechem zeh kibud avaim, which it says, you'll have lengthy days. You will have lengthy days with this matter. Bringing peace between the man and his friend. So that's for the next world, and with this you'll have tarichu yamim on the land. That's this world. So you have the fruit in this world, and the principle for the next world is reference to the mitzvahs in our Mishnah. You eat the pears in this world, the keren in the next world. Or kenegdon, and corresponding to those four mitzvahs in our Mishnah, where you have the fruit in this world and the keren for the next world, there's abodvarim shenifraim and adam, four averas which a person's punished by Mazeh, Karen, and the principal punishment is Kayem Salam will then be in the future. These are there, Avodah Zarah, Gila, Rais, immorality, Shvichas Dam, murder, or Lashon Hara is Keneged Kulam, is equal to all of them. Right? These Averas, the punishment is in this world and the next world. Okay? Now here he says, they're the opposite of the mitzvah. So Avodah Zarah is the opposite of Kibbud Aveim. One who honors one's parents is Mechabed Hashem, and Avodah Zarah is the opposite to that. Gila Arayas is the opposite of making peace, because immorality leads to hatred between a man and his wife. Murder is the opposite of chesed. Through chesed, you sustain your friend, whereas murder, one takes away the life of his friend. And Lashon Hara is the opposite of Talmud Torah, because they both use the speech. Okay? And one takes away the speech of the other, as it were. Okay, so what have we got? Avodah Zarah Minai. It says, if one who does it intentionally, he kois, the sin will be with it. Now the Torah already says the punishment is koris. What's it telling me? The soul is cut in this world and he dies before his time, but Avodah and the sin lasts and it stays ima with it in the next world. And the person's judged with various troubles and pains forever. So we see that Avodah Zarah, a person's punished in this world, but the Karen is there for the next world. And it says with the Tuna Moshe Rabbeinu, that he wanted a kapara for the chaitz of Avodah Zarah, the Egal. He says, they've done gods. So the sin of Avodah Zarah is called Chata Gedaila, right? A great sin. And the Gemara carries on, as far as the three other Averas, you find the expression of Godol or Gedaila. So these sins are like Avodah Zarah, that the person's punished in this world and the Karen is for the next world. Gila Arois Minayin, immorality. So what does Yosef say about the Potiphar's wife? How can I do this big sin? So you see, Gila Arois is called Gedaila. Where do we see murder? Great is my sin, aside from bearing. So you see again the expression of Godol with murder. Because Shabbai is the Lashon Hara. What does it say with Lashon Hara? Lai Godol, like we find not the word Godol you find with murder, but Lai Gedaila, you find with Avodah Zarah, but Lai Hagedaila, which is the word with immorality, and a Gedaila, it's in the plural. Yachves Hashem should cut out. Kol Sifsei Chalakos Lashon V'Debraska. That's all the smooth talkers, right? And the expression there is Gedaila is to tell you that Lashon Hara corresponds to the three cardinal Averas, right? Well, that's how bad it is. I mean, the word Gedaila, you might think it's only two. Maybe it only corresponds to two of them. We're saying it corresponds to all three. So more in Erechin, it says all three have expression Gadol or Gedaila. So we don't exclude one more than the other. So therefore, it's all of them. Now this is a bit of an exaggeration, by the way, Rabbi Isai, because the Chachamim do exaggerate with making Averas bigger than they are, in order to be careful, right? We're not saying that Lashon Hara is worse than murder, right? The Beis Din won't kill someone for speaking Lashon Hara, right? It doesn't mean that Lashon Hara is equal mamash to the three cardinal Averas, because the three cardinal Averas din is Yarek Yava. We're not saying that's the din with Lashon Hara. Okay. Rabbeinu Yonah actually discusses in Shai Teshuvah. So how is it compared of Lashon Hara to the other three? It's not Yarek Yava, I said with it. So what they say is, someone who's regular with Lashon Hara, then his sin, it might be heavy on him. He says even a small Avera, if you do it many times, it becomes big. Definitely Avera, which was already big to start with. So when they say Lashon Hara is shokol to the other three, Lashon Hara is like Regila's regular Lashon Hara, right? Infinite Lashon Hara, which is pretty bad.
Maybe the punishment has nothing to do with Avera.
Possibly. We're saying it's as bad as, but we're saying it's obviously not. It's because basically don't kill for speaking Lashon Hara, right?
The punishment is no right to how.
Yeah, could be. So Rabbeinu Yonah wants to say, first of all, Lashon Hara, when it's done a lot, is corresponding to the three Averas Chamuras, which are done not so often. That's one thing he says. Then he says someone who says Lashon Hara a lot is like the tshuva is difficult because he's done it so many times. right? And then he says the tshuva is also difficult because the sin is easy in his eyes. He doesn't understand how bad it is, okay? And then he says the tshuva is difficult. He should ask mechila from every person he's hurt, and that's very hard for him to find who has he hurt. And then he says, speaking a lot of lashon hara, he'll end up speaking badly about Hashem as well, and so on. Where that will lead to? Okay, let's carry on. Steve, is that where we are? Yeah? Yeah, is that where we are? Yeah? Yosef brings their bad words to his father. Ma'amar, what's Yosef speaking about his brothers? They are suspect on eating Even Chaim. They are ridiculing the children of the maidservants, for treating them like servants. They are mixing with the daughters of the land. Right? Now, we're not saying they really did this. We're not saying Yosef made it up. They did things which were right. Yosef made a mistake, and he went and spoke to his father. Right? Even Menachai, of course, it says because of Ben Pekua, right? He saw the meeting in Ben Pekua, which is a child born in the mother after it's been slaughtered, without having a shechita to the child, yeah? And he didn't know that Ben Pekua doesn't need to eat shechita, it's covered by the shechita of his mother. In terms of Mezalzim B'nei Ashvachos, maybe they didn't join up with them so much, they didn't treat them with as much respect. And he said, oh, you're treating them like servants. And as far as talking with the girls in the land, he saw them having business dealings, and he felt they shouldn't have gone so far with their discussions with them. So let's see. This is Hashem's weighing the justice of what he punishes. Marcel Kolab Nekis, his words, the words are like tashlumin of a person, like stones. They have weights, big and small. So a person's judgment is according to his actions. Midah keneged midah, and Yosef was punished on speaking lashon hara. Ma'amar, what did he say? According to Rameir, chashudin hen alev min achai. They eat from a living animal. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, ba'achani mochiach alen. Through you, kachani mochiach alen. Through you, I will show them about the shvatim shen shaychtim. You'll see they slaughter, and they eat. They don't eat min achai, because I will show you the kashrus of your brothers. It says after they sold Yosef and they needed the goat, the Yishchot was serious and meat from less than they dipped in blood. And Ma'amar, what does he say? They're treating them like servants. Yosef was sold as a servant. Ma'amar knows in the name of Nosaris, speaking to the girls in the land. What was the punishment? Hoduba, the wife of Potiphar, like a bear, will come. Mizgari Alach and starts up with you. As it says, because so now Yosef, the master's wife, is lifted up her eyes to him. He's not going to say lashon hara after he's denying the Creator. What's the source of this? We'll be strong with our tongue. So for it's on our lips are with us. Who is the master over us? Other sins, the person sins in the ground, but these are which is lashon hara chaytim b'shrei ba'aretz. Is sinning also denying the Creator. What's the source for this? Shatu b'shamayim PM or shonam tialach ba'aretz. Their lips go up to the ground, but it goes up to the heavens as well. The Bali Lashon Hara, they speak down here, but they deny the Creator on denying words on things of one who's in heaven. Oh, Rabbi Yitzchok, binuna zois shoiche loka ben etrof ein matzil. So this one, Rabbi Shubel Levi, this passage is talking about people who speak Lashon Hara. It says, if people are speaking rubbish, and the pasuk is talking about Lashon Hara, Maksiv Taman, what does it say over there? Hashem said to the wicked, what is what you're speaking about? My covenant on your mouth. It's talking about the main complaint of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is about the Rasha who learns Torah with a mouth with his dirty of Lashon Hara. Right? The Gemara elsewhere talks about Elisha ben Avuya with this reference over here. So we see that also continuation of Psukim here are all talking about people who speak in Lashon Hara, and by Lashon Hara called those who are Shoichei Eloka, those who forget HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Rambam writes that by Lashon Hara will reach a natural sense of denying the Creator. So that's the way of things. Azhara la lashon hara minai. We have a warning for this. Lashon hara nishmata mikol davara. You will guard yourself from everything bad. Davar is an expression of dibur. The pasuk warning you from dibur, which is bad. Okay. Whenever the Torah mentions one of the lashon is his shomer and pen and al, it's like a warning for a loisa. Okay. Rav La said, Rav Shmuel brings another source for Issa. It says, Rachel ba'mecha zuruchilas lashon hara. Again, this is the peddler who goes from place to place, spreading lashon hara. Okay. Tana Rav Nechemia, he says, don't be like this peddler who goes around the villages, and spreads the words of Dvar Shel Zeh. This one he tells that one he tells this one, and then everyone knows what's happening. Right? He says here, so you see something bad with your friend, and then you go and tell it to someone else. Just like this peddler who goes from spreading news from town to town, whatever it is. Okay? Come and see how bad is those who speak lashon hara. We find that they spoke in, they changed from the truth to refrain from saying lashon hara. The psukim says things were changed in order to make peace between Avraham and Sarah. Like the Torah talks about Sarah after she heard the news of the Malach, she will have a son, right? And but Yitzchok Sarah Bekibah, she laughed in her midst. So first of all, she's saying, well, I'm going to have a child, and my master is old. She said all that, yeah. She heard the nevuah. She's going to have a son, and she's laughing about that possibility. And also the fact Avraham was 99 at that time, and now, but the expression "Ma'adoni Zaken" is not really common for Avraham. All right, and Avraham, when Hashem said the words to Avraham, he didn't say that. Ella, he said, "Lama zesachaka Sarah lema." Why did Sarah laugh? But Adoni Zaken, he doesn't say about my master being old. We Sarah had said, "Engsivkan," doesn't say that. Ella va'aniza kanti, that Hashem changed from her words and told Avraham in a way that there's no remez to the insult to him, in order to refrain from avak lashon hara. Right? Some say with Sarah, she had already started having nidus signs, so she really didn't have a question on herself at all. Right? She thought it was perfectly possible that she could have a child once again. But the main thing was Avraham, actually. How can he have a child? Because she had already seen signs of rejuvenating, right? How bad is about Lashon Hara? Again, to make peace between Yosef and his brothers, Sukkim went around. What does it say? When the brothers came after Yaakov died, they told Yosef, saying, your father commanded to go and tell Yosef to forgive the brothers, forgive the brothers, and yet we don't find anywhere that Yaakov commanded about this. The brothers said this from their own to make peace between Yosef and them, and we don't find that Yaakov said it at all. Right? It's not Lamaisa from the brothers that they changed from the truth, but the psukim here go out of their way. Divrei Badai, understand? The psukim show these things. Even if the brothers didn't say it, the psukim show the words slightly different to what happened. Maybe the brothers felt they were allowed to do it for the sake of peace. Fair enough. But would the psukim, the fact that psukim go and show this, that's how you see how Avak Lashon Hara is, how we try and avoid it. You can say Lashon Hara on those who speak to calm down arguments. What's the source for this one? So this is with Nasan Navi, who told Bathsheba, when you come along and you see Shlomo Melech is not going to be king, other people want to be king, I will come and confirm what you're saying, right? So he's saying Lashon Hara about was it Adonia, was it? That one's allowed to for the sake of peace. Okay, right. Rav Zira by Kumi Rav Yasa. Why was he killed? Do you honestly think that he wanted to marry Avishag Hashunamis? Now she was the one there to warm up David HaMelech, right? And he wanted, Adoniah wanted the kingship, as we know, and Shlomo was the one who was becoming king, and Adoniah wanted to be king. After David died and Shlomo is the ruler, Adoniah wants to allow Avishag Shulamis to be with him, to marry him. Shlomo pushes away his request, okay, and doesn't accept his request. Shlomo Melech wanted to make him Chaim Misa yet, but they didn't kill him yet. So he didn't actually marry Avishag. She wasn't also to him, it's not Eshesav, but he couldn't marry her. We find other reasons. You can't ride on the horse of the king, etc. Right? So you can't use the king's scepter and things like that. You can't use the kalim of the king, and that's why Avishag was also to Adoniah, and she was mutter to Shlomo, who was the king. So what does he want? He's mevakesh, he requests Avishag from Shlomo Melech. Now, he had other things. He'd been rebellious, right? But when he went and held onto the corners of the Mizbeach, and he asked Shlomo Melech not to kill him, and so on. And Shlomo Melech said, look, I won't kill you now, but if anything else happens, then he'll kill him, and find an excuse to kill him. So this is what happened. So what we got here? Amalei, Rabbi Yasser said, that wasn't enough to kill him, and Ilai Yivakshim, they were finding any excuse to spill the blood of those who are involved in arguments. What is considered Lashon Hara? One who says it, and the one who hints to it as well, through hints, even if he doesn't say it, he's over Lashon Hara. Chanusa de Kitinoi, the shopkeepers, those selling flax, Havalan Sumais, they had an army draft, right? And there was one called Bar Chovetz, and he didn't turn up for the draft. He didn't turn up for the draft. Amrei, so the other merchants said to themselves, what are we going to eat today? One said, we'll have chufzin, which is like cheese. When they heard the word chufzin, they said, wait a minute, where is Bar Chovetz? Where is he? Amrei, they said, yes, Bar Chovetz. Now Bar Chovetz is going to come for the king's draft, for the army. So they got him in trouble by quoting his name, by saying a similar name. This one is saying Lashon Hara through hinting. Bulvataya de Siparin. Those who gave advice in Siparin, Hamalah Sumais, they came again, the king's draft. One was called Yochanan, he never came. One said to his friends, then should we go visit Rav Yochanan today? When the officers heard the name Yochanan, they said, wait a minute, where's Yochanan then? Not Rav Yochanan, where's Yochanan? They said, yes, Yochanan, now Yochanan has to come. This, through his deeds, he said it even when he said, even at the time when he did justice, he did mitzvah, whatever it is, we're going to visit Rav Yochanan. By saying that, he caused trouble. He was like through a Ramos, etc., right? As if, I don't know anything about it, but he's actually causing trouble through his deeds. They were righteous. And they had people who spoke Lashon Hara, they would fall in their wars. That's what David said. Like people with spears, and their swords are like, their tongues are like swords. They were the two officers of his army. They were lions in terror, great in terror. They could object with the king. Shaul, they could have objected against Shaul, right? He killed Nov Irakonim, right? And they could have objected and stopped him from killing Nov Irakonim, but they didn't object. Again, following Lashon Hara against David. Bnei Adam Shineim Chanes V'chitzim, their teeth were like swords. Elu Baalei Ke'ilah, these are the people of Ke'ilah, again who caused trouble for David. B'chsiv, it says, when David asked Hashem about the city, Hayaskiruni Baalei Ke'ilah b'yadeh, will they put me in the hands of Shaul? Hayered Shaul, will Shaul come and kill me? Will Shainam Cherev Chada, and what does that refer to? Ela Zifim, the people from Zif. But Zifim, they're the ones who told Shaul that David was hiding in their midst. But it's a Shaul, David, at that time he said, V'bayna Lamin, Mashchi Nasra Leired, Ba'aretz, why are you bringing your Shechina down to this world, to this land, Salish Shechina, when remove your Shechina. So it says, Ruma Shmaim Lekim, Al Kalais Kavadecha, really lift it up. Abadosh and Achav, Avnei Avodah Zarah Hayu. They still do Avodah Zarah, but even so, Adesh Alaya Lenda Torah, they did not have people speaking Lashon Hara. Hayadin La Melchama, and they were victorious. Usha Vadyo Amal Eliyahu. Remember, Avadia was the one who hid all the prophets, right? The true prophets. And he told Eliyahu, I heard, my master heard, when Izebel killed all the other prophets, and I hid 150 true prophets, right, from different caves, and now he gave them bread and water. So where do you see there were no people speaking Lashon Hara? And lechem, he gave them bread, I understand. Lama mayim, why is he mentioning water? In mayim, lama lechem, why mention bread? Ela, it was very difficult to bring the water in a cave with 150 people there. It was very difficult. He mentions them both. And since he needed to bother and bring them, surely a lot of people would have known about it, right? And even so, no one found out. Eliyahu Machriz, and Eliyahu is calling out in front of the king and all the people of Rosh Carmel, I was remaining, and everyone knew that Avadia had already hidden 100 prophets and sustained them. And even so, they never told the king. So from here we learn that the people were not ones who spoke Lashon Hara. So that by not having the people who spoke Lashon Hara in the days of Achav, that caused them to be successful in their wars, even though they were serving Avodah Zarah. As opposed to when there were people who spoke Lashon Hara in the time of Dovid, that caused them to fall in their wars, even though they were tzaddikim.